We'll go ahead and start. I won't say welcome. On behalf of the chamber, we're very excited to have Desper here with us for this month's doctorate. I'm here for.
My mother would appreciate you.
Recognize that, yeah. She made
she knows
sure that
it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, having you here for popcorn politics. I know you've been busy, and getting you here first week of school was probably kind of shocking that I asked you.
I wondered why I agreed to it when I started looking at my calendar.
Me too, but I thought I'll try. I don't know that I get you, but
we'll go through with it.
But we're thankful, and the Chamber's very thankful for the school system that y'all give to the Chamber.
We appreciate everything that all in the community does for the school system. I'm Ben Desper, and a little bit about my background. I spent most of my life growing up in Rome, Georgia. Born up north in Philadelphia. My dad had the good sense to move down south. And went to public schools in Floyd County school system, a shorter college, an undergraduate degree in biology and chemistry. I have 3 graduate degrees from West Georgia, 2 masters and a 6-year. I don't sound like a professional student. My doctorate is in educational leadership from Nova University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Gosh, I've done a lot of things. I got to go back. My first teaching job, I was going to teach in the high school that I graduated from. And I had done my student teaching there. It was pretty cool. My little sister was still there. I tried my best to give her, when I was doing my student teaching, I tried my best to fail her. She was in my class. She made an A, and I did everything I could to make her not make an A. But they offered me a job, and come back as a science teacher. And the principal retired, and the new principal called and says, "Can you be the offensive coordinator?" And I said, "No, sir, I can't be." And he said, "Well, we can't use you then." And so I went back to the middle school that I had taught, and thought, middle school, God, hormones with feet, you know. But it was the best experience I think I could have ever had. I love that age today. A lot of days I wonder why I got back out of being a middle school principal or a middle school teacher, because I could just relate to that little smart alecky age. And I'll tell you why. It's because I feel like you can make a difference at that age. High school kids a lot of times are very peer conscious and set in their ways, and elementary kids still want you to mom and daddy them, and that really wasn't my personality. So I'm one of those guys that refused to never grow up. Worked in Floyd County for 18 years, teacher, assistant principal, middle school principal, elementary school principal. Went to be a high school principal, went to Trine as the high school principal. I was there about a year and a half, and they fired the superintendent, and they said, "Well, you consider filling in for the summer?" And I said, "I'll do it for the summer." That ended up being 18 months that I was the high school principal and the superintendent. You don't want those jobs to do that. You don't want those back to back. Left Trine, wanted to go back with the kids again. Stayed as superintendent for 3 years. Went over to Habersham County in Clarksville, was principal of North Habersham Middle School for 5 years. And it was the best 5 years of my life, and I would still be staying there. My wife wanted to get a little closer to her family. Her dad died, and she wanted to get a little closer to her mom. So we moved to Bartow, and I was the associate superintendent, and I was happy there, very happy there. And the superintendent would always come by every time somebody was looking for a superintendent, put the brochure on my desk, and I just throw it in the garbage. Well, one day I didn't throw it in the garbage. It was sitting there. It was the Pickens one. And Rick Little, who a lot of you may know, Rick was working with us in Bartow County, and Rick says, "You really ought to apply." I said, "I think you'd be a good fit up there. I think you really like Pickens County." So I did, and I'm here and got hired, and that's how I got here. But this begins my 33rd year in education. Been very fortunate to meet a lot of good people over the way. I've been principals of schools that were Georgia School of Excellence, National Lighthouse School to Watch. Done a lot of things along the way, a lot of different experiences, and I like that because it gives me perspective on how it all fits together. Too many people in education spend their whole time in their elementary school or the high school, and they don't understand how what those babies are learning. relates to what happens when they're seniors in high school. And I think that's really good to do that. When they asked me to come to speak, I pointed out to them that I'm not a politician and actually detest politics. So I do work for a 5-member board, and a lot of you probably know my bosses, John Trammell, who's president of the bank over here, Irvin Easterwood, who Irvin is retired from the school system, Dan Fincher, who's a retired veterinarian, Wendy Lau, who is with the Joy House, director of the Joy House, and Byron Long, who is an engineer with Shaw Industries. So those are my bosses. And what I thought I would do, since it is back to school, is sort of talk to you a little bit about our back to school, a little bit about us, and then talk to you a little bit about us as a business. I don't know how many of you know or understand that we're the largest business in the county, and how schools are big business. We were talking before everybody came in that folks think they all understand schools because everybody goes to school. There's a lot to school that folks don't understand and don't know. Those of you who have went, I know there's several of you who worked in education. So let's do a little of this here, and Joe, let's hope this sucker works, okay? With one right.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back. The same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd reach up? Who'd have thought they'd reach up? Yeah, where we need you. Yeah, where we need you. Yeah, they tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
It's nice to be able to brag so much on your school system. When you have 7 schools and all of them won recognition for academics last year. 6 of our schools in Pickens County are Title I distinguished schools. The only one that is not is the high school, and it's not a Title I school. So that's the reason for that. We do have, and we recognized last night, Pickens Middle School is a Georgia Lighthouse School to watch. There are 400 middle schools in the state of Georgia. 15 are Lighthouse schools. Pickens Middle also this summer was named a National Forum School to watch. So that's great too. The high school is called a STEM school, science, technology, engineering, and math, because of the AP courses, the advanced courses that we offer at the high school. They've been recognized for that. Harmony was a platinum school, and that means that that's the highest category for students making academic achievement gains last year. Tate was a gold school for the same reason, different categories, and then the high school was a silver school. So we're kind of blessed with folks who are doing a good job, great kids, and it makes it a good thing to be the superintendent when you have so much stuff to work with. This week, we started school. We're down a little bit, about 50, 60 kids from the end of last year, which is reversing the trend in Pickens County. I think has to do with the housing market and the economy. We were growing at 6% a year for the last several years until the housing market bottomed out. In the last 2 years, we've lost students. Talk about it in a little bit in a minute, the business impact of it, but we're over 100 employees less than we were in 2008. And that's a pretty substantial hit on the economy here because we are the largest employer in the county. It's a special day. How many of you as parents have had this day?
That time of year again. They're going back. It's back to school time at Staples.
I love the little girls'
Over
expression.
7,000 supplies at guaranteed low prices. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Staples. That was easy.
swear I've seen some people doing that this week in the stores, in the local stores. We're glad to get back and get in session and see what we need to do. It's been a good opening week. There's always some things that you have to do at the opening of school that are different than other times during the year. But overall, it's been a really good week. Things you can't account for. Yesterday we had the storm go through, couldn't load the buses. 4 trees were down across the roads in different places. You know, I tell my principals, first days of school, here's your game plan. Get them here, feed them, get them home. And anything you do in extra like that is gravy at that particular point. Here's some of the things we did well last year in Pickens County. In 1997, there were 149 graduates at Pickens County High School and 129 dropouts. That's horrid. But you know, in the state of Georgia today, there are still schools that have even a worse dropout rate than that. We had 13 last year. We still have a couple of those students. We're trying to get back into the Mountain Ed program to get a diploma. We utilize the Mountain Ed diploma to try to get students to have an alternative choice. Some kids just don't like the drama of high school. Some need to work. Some need to get caught up on credits they're behind on. Student achievement scores, I don't want to go through a bunch of test scores, but ours continue to be above in state, local, area averages. I was proud last year that we were able to do a 180-day school year. Do you know that 2/3 of the schools in the state of Georgia right now do not go a full school year because they can't afford to? That shocked me a little bit, that 2/3 do not go. We didn't have any furloughs for our teachers last year. We didn't have any layoffs. And we didn't have any tax increases for our community. And that's rare, very rare. We're real blessed. The Sheriff's Department, judicial system works very well with us in our county. This theme that you see, actually it's up on the downtown lights right now. Anything over like 94% is very, very good. And as you see, we were 96.3% in student attendance last year. That's real good. Okay, we got things we need to work on like everybody else. There's certain grade levels that I'd like to, there's things we need to address. 3rd grade social studies, writing exam. We'd like to see additional students scoring at the exceeds level versus just the meets. There's does not meet, meets, exceeds. It's real easy in education to just try to put the cookies on the lowest counter so everybody can reach them and forget about the students that need the rigor in the advanced classes. And we're trying to work on those kind of opportunities for our students. At the middle school level, 8th grade writing and math, once again, additional students scoring at the exceeds level on the criterion reference test. At the high school, statewide, the end of course tests at the 9th grade in math and language arts are problems tests. We're no different. The 11th grade graduation writing test, we really need to start seeing the number of students who are scoring at 4 and 5 on the AP exam. The advanced placement exam goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and scoring with 5 being the highest. Often students can pay for a year of their college by scoring 4 or 5 on the exam. My youngest was very fortunate. He made a 5 on all AP exams except for the chemistry one where he made 4. He got a full year worth of credit, exempted every freshman class, and that helped Daddy and Mama pay for school. So we need to be able to up the rigor for our kids that can do it and want to go to college. We have an increasing number of special education students in our county. We grew 82 new special ed students in the county this year. And a lot of it, I'm telling you, if you come in the classroom with me, I can show you the babies where the mamas have used alcohol before, or where the parents are doing meth. There's a lot of correlation between what mom and sometimes even what dad's doing and before the child gets to school. That makes it very difficult for us to provide everything the way we need to provide it. I want my teachers. You probably read it in the paper. That wasn't what I said, was I was cracking down on teacher attendance. But anyway, state gives us enough money for 2 days worth of subs a year. So that comes up to about $52,000. We spent $463,000 on subs last year. It wouldn't be abnormal at all to spend 4 or 5 times this amount, because teachers are allotted 12 sick days a year if you want to take them. If you don't take them, you bank them toward retirement. But my concern is what goes on in that classroom when that teacher's out. You've had the substitute teacher. Yeah, you know, not a whole lot of great learning takes on. I'll never forget, my oldest was in 1st or 2nd grade, and this lady sub that I'd gone to high school with her, and I knew her real well. And she came up to me. I picked him up from school that day, and she came up and said, "Oh, Benjamin's such a darling. He's just like you when you were at that age." He said, "Looks just fitting in each other." And by the way, he said how much he liked having substitute teachers. And I said, "Why did he say that?" And he says, "Because they don't make you do anything." And that was my kid's comment to his own teacher. So, you know, that's the way it works. We need to be doing as well with this as we are with our students. You know, one of my board members, Mr. Long, works for Shaw Industries. How long do you think you work at Shaw Industries in Cartersville if you miss 15 days a year? And a little bit of that I don't understand as an educator. Like I said, I've been in the business this is my 33rd year. I have enough sick days banked right now that when I do retire to get 2 years more retirement credit. So if I retired today, it would be at 35 years. So you do get something for that if you do. Fighting complacency. Sometimes the hardest thing is when you're a pretty good school system, and we are a good school system. You ought to be proud of your school system. Certainly nothing I've done, but we could be a great school system. And I'm not going to go into the whole good to great thing. You can read that book by Collins, and he's got a new one out now. It's a great book because good is the enemy of great. If you want to be a great school system, you got to work a little harder. You got to do some more things. And sometimes I feel like we're a little bit complacent. Our kids are so good. I tell people all the time, I'm still driving back and forth for Cartersville, and I live in the Cass District, and they've got a beautiful, brand new, multi-million-dollar high school there. And you walk in it, and you look at the kids there, and you look at the kids at Pickens High School, and you think these kids can't live 38 miles apart. They're different. There's a different culture. Our kids really are good kids. But we can't be complacent and just say, well, they're good kids, they're going to do okay anyway. Some new stuff for this year. States across the United States are going to a common core curriculum. They want to be able to say that whatever, if you graduate high school in Nebraska versus graduating high school at Pickens High School, that you cover the same type of things. And now there's a real push on for that. There's no adequate yearly progress anymore. It's gone. No Child Left Behind, gone. It has magically disappeared. College and Career Readiness Performance Index is the new thing that will be graded on in our schools for accountability. Has a lot of different things. Testing is part of it. Surveys are part of it, which is new for us. One of the things I think is very interesting is one of the things a school's graded on is the number of special ed students who are now served in the regular classroom with assistants as opposed to being in a resource room. And you think, well, why would you want to do that? Well, those children are going to get so much more content if they can function in their classroom with a regular math teacher versus being in a pull-out model. And that's one of the things that's a big push right now is for our students to be served, or especially to be students to be served in content areas. Just like whatever you do for a living and balancing your checkbook at home, budget's a problem. You know, we continue to get less and less and less and less every year. I'm going to present budget next week. Before this school year started, I needed $1.5 million more just to do the same things for next year. We have to pay step raises for teachers to get advanced degrees and a year's experience. We have increasing insurance rates that are out of control. Something's going to have to be done. Decline in the tax digest is hurting us as well. Just to give you an example on the insurance, We already know for the next 3 years, they're going up $500,000 on our insurance for custodians and secretaries and technology and all of our folks who are what are called classified folks. So we already know for the next 3 years they're going up $500,000 with no new money coming to fix it. So by the end of the 3-year period, I will be paying more for a bus driver or a custodian's insurance than they bring home a month. You know, they're going to bring home $600-700 a month as a custodian or a bus driver, and their insurance is going to cost over $1,000 a month. Just our part of it, which becomes your part of it. New alternative school program, I was dissatisfied with the way our students who got in trouble were being served. We were in a 3-county system joint program up in LJ. The kids were getting awfully in trouble going up on the bus, going up there. You know, what do you want to do? Put your kids who have behavior problems on a bus and ship them back and forth an hour a day. So we've got a new ombudsman program that is really good. I've been over there twice already. They really take each child in and do an individual program for each child. It's very, very interesting what they're doing. A lot of it is very computer driven. It dovetails really good into the Mountain Ed Center that we have. We've never done in this school system, even though it's been required for the last 25 years, strategic planning. So one of the things I felt very important, very much it was important for me to do this year, was to do system and school strategic planning. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then I want to tell you a little bit about how we're spending your special purpose local option sales tax dollars. Strategic planning, you got to have a focus on where you're going. We haven't done that. You're supposed to do that. The system's going to have one, the schools are going to tie it, and then we're going to do a scorecard that you're going to be able to look up and say, well, did they meet their goals? Yeah, Harmony met 85% of their goals, Tate met 93% of their goals, the system met 70, whatever the score, but you'll be able to see that because they'll pick out their own things that are going to count as what will be they'll be held accountable for. It's a 3 to 5 year plan. It gives us our path for the future. It makes us look at data-driven things. You can't just say, well, I feel like that's a problem. You've got to look at the data. We surveyed everybody in the world last year. Some of you may have participated. We had 67 people from the community, parents, teachers, students, board members. We worked on this plan almost a whole year. The goals, they picked out 4 goals: student achievement, internal processes, student and stakeholder involvement, organizational growth and improvement, wrapped around our mission statement and beliefs. And this is a map for what we're going to do to get better. Once again, these are the 4 goals. You know, student achievement being at the top. You know, if we operate in a fiscally responsible manner, and we maintain facilities, and we train our staff, and we work with our stakeholders, all these things are going to support what we're doing with student achievement. And every one of these areas under here have a plan and a measurable goal to how we're going to get better at doing those things over the next several years. You give us a penny in taxes, and it's very much appreciated. But folks need to understand that this penny can't be spent on salaries or people. It has to be spent on specific things that were in what you voted on. And here's some of the things that we're doing with that penny. In 3 years, we'll own all of our schools lock, stock, and barrel with no bonds. We'll have everything paid off. We're paying off in bonds about $950,000 a year. So, there will be no bonded indebtedness, which is a big thing for a school system. That would be automatically almost $1 million more I could put on other things when these are paid off in 3 years. Funding for technology, Joey's thing right here. There hasn't ever been very much money put into technology in Pickens County. The infrastructure that's at the high school, for example, is 1997 vintage, most of it. There's been some updates, but when we were going to do this program in the auditorium, I was going to tell everybody to turn off their cell phones because there's going to be too many things pinging on the wireless to be able to use our equipment. First step is to improve our infrastructure. You know, iPads and things like that are going to be coming along. $3 to $4 million that we'll be able to spend over the life of this SPLOST on improving technology. But more than just buying things, we have someone who's going school to school and doing training right now too. Teachers love to have the gadgets, but if they can't use it, what good is it? And so it's you know, it's an instructional tool. Technology is an instructional tool. Never will replace a good teacher, but they need to have these tools. One of the things the kids were doing last year I thought was so cool, they had their cell phones and they had built these cars at the high school. And they had to download what they were doing about building their cars and take it to their parents and show it to them and bring it back, you know, as a way of using technology and as a way of doing a project that they were working on as well. Trying to involve more things along those lines. Bus replacement. You know, I was scared to death when I started looking at bus records. We had buses that were 23 years old. Buses are supposed to be replaced at 12 years. Now, if you got one with really low mileage and you maintained it well, you could run it a little bit longer. But 23 years, we surplus 7 buses this year. When I signed off on the odometers like you do when you buy a car, some of them were on their 3rd odometer. I know I'm going to jail for putting the wrong mileage down because we couldn't figure out even how many miles were on the buses. So we're buying new buses, trying to get air-conditioned fleet for the kids. We're buying 7 or 8 a year, and if we go over the life of the SPLOST, 7 or 8 a year, we'll update the whole fleet so nothing's older than 12 years. So that's something that we really need to do. You know, if you've got an older car, things just wear out sometimes. And buses are maintained as strictly as anything that you ever could think of. Oil changes, brake pads, I mean, boom, boom, boom. That mileage, it has to be done, inspected by the State Patrol. But parts wear out after so many years. This isn't sexy, but it's things that needed to be done around here. We're putting a new roof right now on the high school. The part that was in 97 was leaking everywhere. Putting a new roof right now on the historic building at JES. We've got plans to update next year the roof at PCMS. The air conditioners are the original units at PCMS. They're giving us fits. Little things, awnings, sidewalks. If you ever go in the front of the high school, it always was real pitted and stuff with the water laid. Well, we re-poured and took that concrete out so the water will drain. A lot of painting. Original paint, 97 paint, was still in a lot of the classrooms at the high school. We put down over 5,200 feet of just new baseboard. Well, that's a mile of new baseboard. But we didn't have the money to do it. But you've got to take care of these buildings. You're not going to get these new expensive buildings all the time. You've got to do what you've got to do to take care of things. And so those are the kind of things that we're spending that penny on over the next 4 years, and to take care of what we got, to upgrade the infrastructure, buses, and paying off the debt for the bonds. But the whole part about it isn't about buses or books or buildings or all those kind of things. It's, do we have the programs and do we have the things that the children need to be supported? And one of the things that I wanted to show you today, and that I showed the teachers the other day when I used this, was, do we have what it takes to support these kids to be successful? Because those are the kids that are either going to be taking care of you or not taking care of you when you get older. So let's watch this for just a couple minutes. we as a county, we need to look and see if we're willing to take risks and accept this challenge. I really do think Pickens County is a good school system. I really would like it to become a great school system. I would like Pickens County to be one of those systems that folks come to and say, what are you guys doing here that's made this much of a difference for children? I would also like to say thank you to everybody in the county, including you guys and everyone else in the county for support, because we've got good support here. The school system is very well supported by the folks in the community. That's our new dragon. It's in the hall. They had to shave the high school principal's head to get it, but we did. And we thank you for everything that you do for us. Let me share some stuff here, and I'll sit down and read a little bit to you. Currently, we're the largest employer in Pickens County. We currently employ 664 employees, not including substitute bus drivers like that. We have 354 certified personnel. That would be any teacher, counselor, librarian, administrator, people with a certificate. We have 310 classified personnel. This would include bus drivers, paraprofessionals, technology specialists, office people, food service workers, maintenance staff, and mechanics. An astounding 80% of our folks have an advanced degree, which most school systems are around 60%. As of today, we have 4,393 students served on 7 campuses. We get our money to operate our schools based on state, federal, and local funding. And last year, 41% of our revenue was from state and other grants. 59% is collected from local sources. So a lot of our money comes from local sources, including property taxes, ad valorem, railroad taxes, real estate taxes. The fund balance on July 1 was about $4 million. Our budget every year is about $40 million. So you want to have about 10% in reserve, and so we're right there with it right now. 86.6% of every dollar we have goes to pay the people that work in the school system. That might astound you a little bit, but most school systems, 85-86%, go directly to salaries, and the other 14-15% buildings and books and everything else that you have. With transportation being a big thing that we don't get enough funding for. They fund about 25% of what we need to run our buses every day. We get about $2 million a year in federal grants, and the millage rate for last school year was 15.97%. That's a pretty good millage rate for what other school systems are having to raise it to right now. It's very challenging when you get cut every year to continue to do this. As I said earlier, we've lost about 108 employees since 2008 due to, we haven't laid anybody off due to attrition. We've got class sizes that are climbing. We're doing without some things we had before. There are a lot of other things we need. But I'm not going to complain because I'm very thankful that we haven't had to do the layoffs and the furlough days. They did furlough days one year, but there haven't been in last year for 2 years. I'm hoping next year that we won't have a tax increase. I really would like to not do that. We're going to, one of the things I'm afraid we're going to have to do is this. We have, currently our employees all get single coverage paid for them, which is a nice benefit. I just don't know how much longer we're going to be able to continue paying the insurance for folks as the insurance rates continue to skyrocket. So, and the one thing I'd like to do is to get folks that owe us $1.1 million in taxes that haven't been collected yet. If I could get that, I'd be in great shape with the budget. But you know, there's always a certain percentage that is not collected every year. But we're right now looking at $1.1 million. I brought you a copy of the school system calendar, brochure on our schools, and my card. I'd like to open it up for any type of questions that you might have, any of the information I presented to you, anything Joey can answer. I mean, whatever you'd like to ask, I'm willing to take a shot at it. Yes, sir.
What's your position on the charter school issue?
Charter school issue, I support folks' right to make choices with their own children. I do. But the charter school issue is a very critical issue right now in the state of Georgia. We can't continue to give more money to charter schools than we're giving to public education on a percentage basis. I can't quote you the numbers right off the bat, but so much per student, it's so much higher per student in charter school than it is versus in public education right now. There's going to have to be some kind of reckoning with this. We can't continue to have more and more charter schools and the funding continue to go down for the public schools. Regardless of what you would like to do with your child, the community still has to be educated. When you go to that grocery store or wherever, you want people that can make change, or you want people that are going to be good workers in the community. And most charter schools aren't going to take kids with problems. They're not going to take a lot of special education students and things like that. I have one student alone in this school system that costs me $125,000 a year to educate for one child that has some very special needs. So you're not going to see those kind of kids go to a charter school. You're going to see a lot on the ballot. My personal position is I would vote no on that. You're really sounding a death knell almost for public education in the state of Georgia. If it passes in 5 years, public education in the state of Georgia will be have-and-have-nots, with the public school education being have-nots. That's opinion. You ask. What else can I ask?
The Chamber has a youth leadership program, and we have designed that last year and changed to go back to 11th and 12th grade students. What's your view on that being offered here?
I love that. My own two children graduated from Haversham Central, Mount Airy, Georgia. Both were in youth leadership there. It was offered as a class, as a social studies elective over there. The lady that was in charge of it was tremendous. Patsy Bell was in charge of it. And getting to do everything in the community, seeing things in the community. One of my children is very interested in going into medicine, and he shadowed so many days a week at the hospital, and then so many days a week he did tutoring at one of the middle schools. So, and got to do a lot of the things that we do here. Very supportive of it, like to see it continue and grow. At Haversham Central, they limited it to seniors only. A big deal out of it. There were cookouts. It was tough to get into class. You had to do an application to get into class. And the kids liked it because they had some freedom. They could get permission to go off campus and go do this. And I know my own child and several of his buddies tutored while I was a middle school principal, and I always gave my own son the most difficult child to deal with because he never struggled as a student in school. So I think you need to see all sides of what goes on in the community, and I think it's a great way to do it.
Our program right now is designed that they volunteer their time after school. Do you ever see it being implemented here as an elected class?
Yes, I think it could be. It has a state course number. It'd be wonderful if you could do it 4th block for the kids if they wanted to stay after school and do some tutoring or do some community service or do some job shadowing. That would be a wonderful way to do it, but it could very well be. Mr. McDonald certainly could have the ability to put that in place.
We're limited to what we can do here, but we have seen so many kids come out of being shy and really develop
Absolutely.
over a year's time and then dedicating their time. So
Absolutely.
I know we're not reaching nowhere near the amount of students that we could be.
Well, they didn't go with a big group every year. The one I'm familiar with, it was about 20 to 22 kids, and they made them do a fundraising project. One of their fundraisers was, I know one year we had a historic house in the community, kind of like the Tate House, and it was opened up, and we did refreshments and stuff, and people gave a donation to come in. Well, they raised $500 for a scholarship to give at the end of the year. Some of those things to give back, some projects around school to give back. And I think, I would be all in favor of having it during the school day. It could be incorporated. I have seen it work. The only problem that we ever ran into was having enough time geographically to go somewhere and come back within the allotted time. that's the reason if you could have it at the end of the day where, of course, then you run into football practices and band practices. So you've got to work out the logistics. Yes, sir?
We know that the NCLB, we received a waiver, the state received a waiver for NCLB.
No child left behind.
No child left behind,
Or
sorry.
Nickelby, some of you may know Nickelby or whatever.
Sorry about that. From what I read an article the other day that said the incentive for those waivers were was the adoption of the core curriculum. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I think that's I think that definitely is one of the things. I'll tell you another thing that I think was part of the incentive is the money that goes with it. There's a carrot with that stick.
Mm-hmm.
And also teacher evaluation. Currently, teacher evaluation in the state of Georgia has been the same since 1990. And it's not the best scenario in the world. And I'll be very honest with you, I've been evaluating teachers during all that time. And a lot of teachers were real good about putting on a dog and pony show when I came in the room. The new evaluation method is going to be a lot more based on the growth the children make in a year. Instead of comparing this year's third grade with last year's third grade, they take the children that all gained at the same rate, that all scored at the same score, and look how much gain they made over the year. So that will become part of the teacher's evaluation. I know one of the things they're looking at is school climate surveys as part of the evaluation. I don't know how I feel about that. I have to think that through a little more.
What does that mean?
Going out to the parents and asking the parents what they think about what's going on in the school and the students.
Encouraging.
And letting students, you know, I'm sure in college a lot of you got to evaluate your professors. Well, you know, I worked in a school where every time we got to the end of a unit, our kids evaluated that unit with teachers at middle school level. And a lot of schools are now being required to let the kids evaluate the teachers. I have some questions about how it would be done. I have to see it first.
Right.
Some kids take it a lot more seriously than others. But there are a host of things in the new teacher evaluation that haven't been done before. Tennessee is currently using it as a model. They're a year or two ahead of us. There are several school systems, I think there's 21 or 24 in the state this year that are piloting a new teacher evaluation system. Those will be the ones receiving some direct funding for piloting.
Right.
I can see it coming to us in a year, 14 school year, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And so this year, from what I understand, all the schools in the state of Georgia are have adopted the core curriculum and will be.
We are moving to a Common Core, starting in math and English language arts. Before, the way it was measured, we measured those two subjects, but we never measured science or social studies. And as a science teacher, I used to get so mad. I get the kids in middle school, and the elementary teachers, bless their hearts, trying so hard with reading and math, they never had time to do science. So I would get kids in the 7th and 8th grade with really lacking skills in science because they just didn't have time in the elementary schools to do it. So now the teachers are going to be, and the schools are going to be held responsible for making sure that all subject areas are dealt with, not just basic reading and writing skills.
Now, I have two more questions about the Common Core. It's a very new thing, and there's a lot of unanswered questions, it seems. I looked at the Common Core website, and it gives you a list of basically the philosophies and the way it addresses certain subject matter areas. And but along with this new Common Core in Georgia, there are new accountability measures that are going not necessarily along with it, but are being implemented as well. I was wondering if there are accountability measures that are associated with Common Core, or is that up to the states? Do you know? I don't know.
Well, right now it's all still up to the states.
Okay.
But they would like to see more movement to ensure that a student in one state's getting the same education as another.
Right.
You know, you have some nationally normed tests right now that you can do that. Advanced placement courses that I was talking about.
Right.
The same curriculum is taught throughout the United States in AP Calculus, for example. So when you make a 5 on AP Calculus in Habersham Central High School, that will be the same as a high school in Los Angeles. And so when a college is looking at preparedness for readiness for college, a 5 means something to that college in AP.
Right.
Right now, an A in calculus in my school might mean something different than an A in calculus in your school. I may have had the coach that was an easy grader, and you may have had the mathematician that was a hard grader,
Right.
and you may be a little more well prepared possibly, even though you made the same grade. Well, some of these tests take away those type of things.
So all the rubrics will be the same across the board for Common Core?
Yes, eventually.
How do
yes.
you feel about the Common Core? Do you think it's a move, it's going in the right direction? Do you think it's better than or do you think it's an improvement upon the No Child Left Behind? Or
It's an improvement on No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind, you can have one special ed student not have a good day on the test,
Get
and
good.
make your whole
Right.
school a substandard school. And one of the ways they'll be ranking the schools now will be like exemplary schools. And it's going to be tough to get into that range. We're talking about schools that are going to be magnet schools and IB schools and some advanced schools. And then the schools that are really, really at the bottom, it would scare you to see, we still have schools that are graduating 20% of the kids. And those schools are going to get more funding and more help. The majority of schools will be in the middle. And you're also going to get a new report card that you're going to be able to look at. And it won't be this year, but you're going to get flags. And the green flag means one thing, and then they're going to be a number grade 1 to 100. It's one thing to say your school met certain criteria, but if a school over here made an 89, is that different than a school over here that made a 78?
Right.
They're going to be more tightly graded. I do think it's ironic. I have nieces that go to school in outside of Destin in Niceville, and their school flunked what's called the FCAT or something in Florida, and yet they were a National Board of Living School of Excellence. So you have this criteria here, you have this criteria here. The Common Core, I think, is the basic part is to try to ensure what's being taught is being taught to everybody. Now, do I feel like children in Pickens County, Georgia, might need to know something different than children who are growing up in New York City? Yeah, I think there has to be some room for local curriculum, local cultural things. When the state school superintendent came and visited us the other day, what's the first thing he wanted to go see? Our hog barn. We have a hog mahal, like the Taj Mahal. We have one of the best hog barns in the state of Georgia. And he's very much into CTAE, career development. I mean, that's a big deal. You're going to start seeing a really increased emphasis on careers starting in the middle school. Scares me a little bit, but trying to steer kids toward careers a little bit more. And the first thing he wanted to see was our new hog mahal and our culinary arts lab. Your culinary arts lab at Pickens High School was the champion culinary arts team in the state of Georgia last year. Didn't get much publicity, but they were. And they went and competed in Orlando this summer and finished way up there with all the schools from all across the United States, because kids can get a job in culinary arts, y'all. They get jobs in that, make a decent salary if you want to learn how to be a chef or go on and do some things like that. And they have their little chef hats and their little dragon on their little chef's coat, and they're very proud about what they're doing. And we can't keep enough slots in the teacher's class out there. Kids are lined up to get in that classroom. Boys like it because they get to eat a little bit, get to see the girls in the kitchen, and the girls like it. And so there's a waiting list. Last year she even taught on an extended day because we had so many kids that signed up for it.
Now, in the Common Core, is there enough room for local control and of this?
For example, I'll give you a good example. Georgia will continue to teach Georgia history in the 8th grade. I mean, I think if you're going to be a citizen of the state of Georgia, you probably need to know a little bit about how Georgia was founded, as opposed to learning how Wisconsin was founded.
Right.
But I think that's a good example of something that's more going to be still on a state basis. Look for your math, your sciences, your English language arts, Those type of things, I think, will be more of a nationwide curriculum. I still think there's room to do some other things. You know, you can tailor your CTAE courses, your vocation, it used to be all vocational. You can tailor those to certain things you're doing. Where we lived in Habersham, they had one of the largest chicken plants in the southeast. And chicken business was big business for Fieldale over there. Big, huge company, largest employer in that county. Well, they wanted folks who knew about the chicken business. But for us to turn out kids in that school system that can go to work and doing some things and make a living there. So I still think there'll be room for those things.
Okay, thank you.
How does the special needs kids work in with all of this? Is there going to be anything different for them?
Yes, there will be. One of the things that I think is a good thing is the requirements are being upped. I think a lot of times we sell some of our special needs children short. I mentioned earlier that the push is for those children to be served with academic support in the classroom, the regular classroom, as opposed to let's go have algebra down in Miss Jones' room, where we might make cookies one day, or we might let you get caught up in your homework and social studies one day. They're going to be served in the regular classroom with academic support. So I think that's a big part of it. They're requiring us more and more to have that. They're getting a lot tighter on restrictions on things like individual education plans, IEPs.
And so the teacher evaluation that you talked about, where you would get a baseline when the child comes in, and then you do a post-evaluation at the end, will apply.
Yes,
Awesome.
it will.
That's good.
Knowing that if you have a student with a diagnosed disability, you certainly are going to expect a different growth standard on that student than maybe the student who is in the gifted class. But the exciting part about that is a lot of times the student with special needs has the most potential for growth that's untapped. You know, if you're one of these kids that always scores at the 99 or 98, how much growth are you going to take? You know, you can't make as much growth there. The growth is not going to be the same as if you were a C student going to an A. You know, that kind of thing.
And the other thing with many of the special needs kids too is that, you know, especially with those kids who have behavioral issues, emotional issues, there's a lot of potential there for those kids.
There is, and as you well know, the numbers are increasing all the time, whether it's due to problems of the environment or problems in the home, or whether it's a true disability, cognitive disability, emotional disability. There's going to have to be a lot more done. And one of the things that scares me a little bit in this budget cutting, a lot of my students like that, there used to be a lot of programs to transition them into society from school. A lot of those programs now are being cut because of budgetary issues. I've got a couple of special ed kids that are like senior level that the support for the families isn't there anymore. These families have tremendous medical bills or need tremendous support, whether it may be PTOT, some of the therapies that won't be available to them once that student leaves the school. So what's going to happen to these children when they leave? I noticed in the newspaper, and I loved it, they did the little story about Cody, who was going to work for the newspaper now, selling subscriptions or anything. Cody's one of my special needs kids who's got a great personality, who's a sweet kid. You'd love to be around him. He's a pretty sharp kid too, but he's got some different kind of disabilities. It was neat that the newspaper would put a picture, he was going to work for them, and I thought that was pretty cool. But those job opportunities for those kids have to be out there, because the homes and things aren't going to be out there anymore for these kids. And those families are going to struggle with, well, what do I do with this special needs child after they're 21 or 22? I don't know if most of you know that or not, but most of the time we have those kids with us till they're 22, not 18. There's really severe children. And so, you know, what does the community have for those children? You know, certainly everybody's hoping that the economy improves, so there'll be more opportunities for just not the kids, but for the families as well. What other questions do you have? I know it's got time for popcorn and politics to be over with, but I'd be more than happy. Tell you what I'll do. I'll I'll just leave on the table up here if you're interested. I'll have a brochure about our schools that the kids did. I didn't do it, the children did it. Ms. Quall's class. Card and a calendar of this school year with our dates that might be interesting to you. A little different this year. We're going to have a week. They asked for a week in February. This is February. It's an additional week this year. Yeah, it's a winter break. I think the kids sometimes get tired of teachers, and the teachers get tired of kids when you go to break it. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. If I can ever help you, please call.
Thank you very much.